morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, where our mission is to join together to create a nourishing, liberal religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in our wider world. Or, as we say in short, to create community, find meaning, and work for justice. We're glad to have you with us today. We're a very welcoming congregation, and we appreciate your unique experiences, backgrounds, beliefs, and lifestyles. If you're one of our long-term members or have been here a short time, or if you're joining us today for the very first time, we're so glad you're with us. We're always very grateful to those that are streaming with us this morning. We're glad that you are here with us as well. I would like to, it's my pleasure to welcome our guest speakers this morning from Vanessa Behan, Amy Vega, Executive Director, and Lacey Renner, Development Director. And I will introduce them in more detail later on in the service. Just one quick announcement. Today is the last day of our generosity campaign. I want to thank those who have already pledged commitments, and if you're still pending pledging your commitments, or if you have an ongoing commitment, we would love to hear from you too. And again, thank you very much for the support that you provide to UUCS. So, now, please take a few minutes to greet one another, and be sure to say hello to someone you haven't met before. Thank you. We'll have more time for good conversation and good coffee after the service. So, we now turn from our informal greeting of one another to formally begin our service by lighting our chalice, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism, the symbol of our unity and solidarity, of our openness and inclusion, of our community and individual uniqueness. May this small flame be our offering offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world and a beacon of hope to those in need. And may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost, and cast a healthy shadow of doubt where it's been found. Lacey Renner will be providing our opening reflection this morning.
Thank you. I'm going to, a big focus on what we'll be talking to you about today is how Vanessa Behan can help with generational cycles of trauma. I'm going to read a poem to start. It's called By Example by Henry Matthew Ward. When I got mad and hit my child for his own good, I reconciled. And then I realized my plight. Today, I taught my child to fight. When interrupted by the phone, I said, "Tell them I'm not home." And then I thought and had to sigh, "Today I taught my child to lie." I told the taxman what I made for getting cash that I was paid. And then I blushed at this sad feat. Today I taught my child to cheat. I smugly copied a cassette to keep me free of one more debt, but now the bells of shame must peal. Today I taught my child to steal. Today I cursed another race. Oh God, protect what I debase, for now I fear it is too late. Today I taught my child to hate. By my example, children learn that I must lead in life's sojourn in such a way that they are led by what is done, not what is said. Today I gave my child his due by praise for him instead of rue. And now I have begun my guide. Today I gave my child his pride. I have now reconciled and paid to IRS on all I made. And now I know that this dear youth today has learned from me the truth. The alms I give are not for show, and yet this child must surely know that charity is worth the price. Today he saw my sacrifice. I clasp within a warm embrace my neighbor of another race. The great commandment from above, today I taught my child to love. Someday my child must face alone this world of fearsome undertone, but I have blazed a sure pathway. Today I taught my child to pray. Thank you.
Our first in-service hymn of today is an African-American spiritual, which I think many of you may know. It's called "Sometimes I Feel Like a Motherless Child." Please rise as you're willing and able to either access the screen or your hymnal, your gray hymnal. It's 97.
We now kindle our candles of care, and each time we gather as a congregation, there are always those who are with us in our minds and hearts, and who we want to wrap in our love and care. Let us share a moment in silence, embracing others who are here and here in our hearts and minds this morning. We want to light a candle of care this morning for Mary Mosier. She took a fall and has broken her arm, so we kindle a candle for her this morning. You are welcome to say the name aloud of others that you are caring for in your hearts and minds today. those named aloud and those embraced in our silence, and all those who are suffering elsewhere in the world at this hour, we hold in our community of compassion. We now gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which sustains this community and its mission to the larger world.
I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose. I know this rose. I know my fear. I know my fear. I know my soul. I know this soul. I know this rose. I know this rose. I know this rose. I know this rose. I know my fear. I know my fear. I know my soul. I know this soul. I know this rose. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open.
I'd like to invite any children who'd like to come forward for our Time for All Ages. Come on down. You're welcome to stay in your seats, too. All right. So many of you know that in addition to being a religious educator, I'm also a ballet teacher. And my studio is in the throes of preparing for our spring recital, a production of Cinderella. And so this morning, I've got a version of that fairy tale. And it's something that I've adapted from a story that was originally written by Gail Sfar. I will need... Oh no. Where's my magic wand? That's all right. Oh, here it is. This, to get into character. Phew, crisis averted. As Cinderella swept around the fireplace, she often thought about people with superpowers like Wonder Woman or magic like Harry Potter. She yearned to have super magic powers like that so that she could help others. She wanted to bring a smile to the face of the lonely little boy she saw at the market every morning. And she wanted to fix up the rundown playground at the park so that the village children could play there. Cinderella knew she was destined for more than just cleaning up after her cranky stepsisters. One night, just as Cinderella was about to fall asleep, a fairy godmother came into her room. "Hello, Cinderella," she said. "I'm here to help you. What have you been wishing for?" "Oh," cried Cinderella, "please give me some super magic powers so I can make a difference." "Well," said the fairy godmother, "I'm happy to give you some magic, Cinderella, but..." "Oh, thank you," interrupted Cinderella, and she fell right to sleep. The next morning, when Cinderella woke up, she remembered what had happened the night before. She jumped out of bed, eager to try out her new superpowers. As she began her morning chores, she realized she'd forgotten to ask what she needed to do to release those superpowers. You know, some secret word or a sign. But she decided she'd figure that out as she went along. Later that morning, when she was buying food for dinner at the market, she saw that sad little boy sitting all by himself. "Let's try my magic," she said, and she wiggled her fingers at him from a distance. Nothing. "Maybe I need to be closer," she thought. So she walked closer to him, and he looked up at her. She felt nervous, knowing that he might not want to talk with her, but she couldn't help but give him a friendly smile. When she did, his face beamed with his own huge smile. "Ha!" thought Cinderella. "I really do have magic. Can I join you?" she asked. "Sure," he said, smiling even bigger. Cinderella learned that the boy's grandmother sold bread at the market, but wasn't quite old enough to help her out. He was waiting for a friend, just like Cinderella, to show up. They talked and talked until the boy had to go back home with his grandmother. Cinderella was feeling pretty good about her super magic powers as she walked back home to make dinner for the family. But as she passed the park, she wondered, how can I use my super magic powers to fix the playground? Wiggling her fingers didn't work. She didn't know any magic words yet. Maybe if I just start working to clean it, something will occur to me. I am, after all, very good at cleaning. And so she did. She took trash bags to the park and started picking up trash that had been left there. Before long, a couple children came by and asked what she was doing. "I'm fixing our park so you can play in it again." The children began to help Cinderella. Soon other kids joined them. They picked up trash and pulled weeds. They arranged stumps and logs to create a play structure. Little by little, the park began to look more like what Cinderella imagined it could be, and by the time she left, it was full of children playing. Cinderella was exhausted by the time she went back home that afternoon and figured she had just enough time for a power nap. She was almost asleep when the fairy godmother came back. "Oh, I'm so happy to see you," said Cinderella. "I want to thank you for giving me all those super magic powers. But I tried to tell you last night. My wand was broken. I didn't give you any magical abilities," said the fairy godmother. "You must have," protested Cinderella. "How else could I have made that little boy smile and given our children a park to play in?" The fairy godmother just smiled. "My dear, you did that because you possess 3 powers that you developed yourself: kindness, bravery, and determination. With those 3 things, you are making a difference." And with that, Cinderella happily fell fast asleep. And now you can join me in singing our children out to Children's Chapel.
As we move into a time of meditation, find a comfortable position, put your feet on the floor, close your eyes if you wish. Take a deep breath in, breathe out, and reflect on these words from Call the Midwife. Invisible wounds are the hardest to heal, for their closure depends upon the love of others, patience and understanding, and the gift of time. At this time, Lacey Renner will provide the reading.
I am going to read an excerpt from a book called What Happened to You by Dr. Bruce Perry and Oprah Winfrey. And The idea behind this book is, the title is What Happened to You, and it encourages us to, when we're looking at someone, instead of using the words, what's wrong with you, we think, what happened to you? So I'm going to read a little story, and this is in the voice of Dr. Perry. I sat in the darkened room watching the mother Gloria and her 3-year-old daughter Tilly through a one-way mirror. They were doing great together. Gloria was tracking with Tilly's cues, much more in sync than in previous visits. Both appeared more comfortable with each other. Over the 2 years I'd been watching their visits together, there had been so much positive change. On my left was Tilly's new Child Protective Services caseworker, her 5th over 2 years. On my right was Mama P, the child's foster mother. I'd known Mama P for years. She was a loving woman with an endless reserve of positive energy. She had fostered dozens of children. Each was special to her, each loved. Mama P probably taught me more about trauma and healing than anyone. Gloria had been removed from her family when she was 6. She struggled as she grew up in the child protective system, bouncing from foster home to foster home, school to school, community to community. Gloria had multiple complex social, emotional, and physical health problems related to her many traumatic experiences. Unfortunately, she'd been misunderstood by everyone. Her therapists, foster caretakers, caseworkers, judges, teachers. 20 years ago, awareness of the impact of trauma wasn't very high. By age 18, when Gloria aged out of the system, she was using a variety of drugs to self-medicate her pain. On her 19th birthday, she was 8 months pregnant and homeless. By her 20th, she had an infant daughter, no support, no family, no work. Ultimately, the Child Protective System removed Tilly. Fortunately, Tilly was sent straight to Mama P. Over the next 2 years, Mama P helped both Gloria and Tilly. She was attentive and nurturing, creating a safe and stable home for Tilly. As she invited Gloria to be present and involved in Tilly's life as long as she wasn't using or drinking, Mama P realized that Gloria needed as much safe and stable nurturing as Tilly. She realized Gloria was a young, unloved child in a woman's body. In the beginning, Gloria didn't engage much, but after 9 months or so, she accepted our offer to get clinical help for her trauma-related problems. By now, both Tilly and Gloria had grown up significantly. It was getting close to the time when Gloria would be able to care for Tilly on her own. But for that to happen, CPS had to make the recommendation to the court. This observed visit was part of the CPS reunification plan. We 3 sat silently, watching Tilly and Gloria. After about 10 minutes of play, Gloria reached into her coat pocket and pulled out some candy. I could feel the CPS caseworker stiffen. She is not supposed to bring candy to these sessions. On my other side, I could feel Mama P make herself bigger in response to the caseworker's words. I quietly put my hand on Mama P's, trying to reassure her. She was very protective of both Gloria and Tilly. Tilly was pre-diabetic. In her first year of treatment, we noticed that Gloria, with so few relationship tools, used candy to make Tilly happy. We came to understand that this was the primary way which Gloria's foster caregivers had managed her when she was young. Getting candy was the closest thing Gloria got to being loved. Our brain develops as a reflection of the world we grow up in. You love others the way that you've been loved. Gloria was merely showing love to her daughter the best way she knew. The caseworker continued, "She knows that she's not supposed to do that. The child is pre-diabetic. It's abusive." "No," I said, "it's sugar-free candy. Clearly this caseworker knew to Tilly, and likely dealing with 60 other cases, had not read the most recent report." "How do you know that?" "I gave them to her before the session." I could feel Mama P smiling. A year earlier, in a team meeting where we were trying to figure out the best way to balance Tilly's pre-diabetic condition with Gloria's impulse to use candy to show love, one of my clinical team members wanted to admonish Gloria. He suggested searching her before visits. and prohibiting contact if she snuck candy to Tilly. Mama P disagreed. That poor mother is doing the best she can. Let her give her daughter some candy. That's all she knows. You will not make her a better parent by punishing or shaming her. If we want her to be a more loving parent, we need to be more loving to her. So instead of admonishing Gloria, we simply had her switch to sugar-free candy and taught her about nutrition and diabetes. And of course, Mama P made sure that Gloria and Tilly both got lots of love. We explained this to the new caseworker, and together we created a transitional plan for reunification with lots of support for both Gloria and Tilly. Gloria got her GED and went to community college to study nursing. Mama P stayed active in their little family. Rather than undermining a mother who was doing her best, we kept showing Gloria and Tilly love and how to love. One of the most remarkable properties of our brain is its capacity to change and adapt to our individual world. Neurons and neural networks actually make physical change when stimulated. This is called neuroplasticity. The way they become stimulated is through our particular experiences. The brain changes in a use-dependent way. The neural networks involved in piano playing, for example, will make changes when activated by a child practicing piano. These experience-dependent changes translate into better piano playing. This aspect of neuroplasticity, repetition leads to change, is well known and is why practice in sports, arts, and academics can lead to improvement. A key principle of neuroplasticity is specificity. In order to change any part of the brain, that specific part of the brain must be activated. If you want to learn to play the piano, you can't simply read about playing the piano or watch YouTube videos or watch other people playing the piano. You must put your hands on the keys and play. You have to stimulate the parts of the brain involved in piano playing in order to change them. This principle of specificity applies to all brain-mediated functions, including the capacity to love. If you have not ever been loved, the neural networks that allow humans to love will be undeveloped, as in Gloria's case. The good news is that with use, with practice, these capabilities can emerge. Given love, the unloved can become loving. Thank you.
Soft through the darkest sky, gentle breezes sing, sweetly a lullaby
Vanessa Behan has been a safety net for thousands of families for 36 years. Joining us today are Amy Vega, Executive Director, and Lacey Renner, the Development Director for Vanessa Behan. They're going to share with us about the programs and talk about childhood development, and generational cycles. Amy Vega holds a Master of Social Work degree from Walla Walla University and has been the Executive Director of Vanessa Behan since 2006. She started caring for children at Vanessa Behan over 25 years ago, working the graveyard shift. After a life-changing experience working with the family, she returned to school to obtain her MSW degree with the desire to work more closely with parents. And for 10 years, she's worked side by side with parents and helped develop programs that met their individual needs. Lacey Renner has been the Development Director of Vanessa Behan since 2021, when she left a job in banking for nonprofit development. She was a new mother when first introduced to Vanessa Behan and its mission. She could imagine herself being in a position of vulnerability, and after taking a tour of the organization, joined the Funding Development Committee. She says that being a part of this organization has helped me to learn and unlearn deeply important truths, and I continue to be a more compassionate human, in part because of Vanessa Behan. Feeling safe and loved is a basic human right for all children, and Vanessa Behan provides that. It is with pleasure that I introduce to you Amy Vega.
Thank you. We're actually going to start with a quick video to set the stage.
On January
for
the
Vanessa
9th, 1982, Vanessa K. Behan was killed at her home at the hands of her mother and stepfather. I was disturbed. It was disturbing to me. And my wife said, well, if it bothers you that much, why don't you get involved? And so I did.
Bill had taken a trip. We heard about Vanessa's death, and he was in Phoenix, talked to some friends. They said they had a nursery. So he went to look at it, and he said, when I get home to Spokane, I'm going to get involved with their nursery. Well, there wasn't one. So he got some friends together, formed a board, took 5 years. We opened our doors.
When we first started out, it was very small. We wanted to memorialize Vanessa Behan. Her death is the reason why we're all here. Since our inception, we've taken in 106,000 children. That's half the population of Spokane.
But right now, we just continue to need Spokane support, each individual. The potential for what we can do for kids that's here is beyond belief.
30 years ago, when we were just moving into our first facility, we had hoped and prayed that the Spokane community would adopt the program and support it through private donations.
Yeah.
And it has in spades. Every time we've had a need, someone or some group has stepped forward with a solution. We're very, very confident the same thing is going to happen here.
Spokane paid for this. We don't take federal or state money. This is all individual and corporate donations. People of the Spokane are phenomenal, but we need the continued support. We always will. We always will.
So that's a little bit of the background of Vanessa Behan, but I want to start somewhat from the beginning. As Bill alluded to, we got our start because of the death of a young girl named Vanessa K. Behan. She was 15 days past her second birthday, and everything we learned about Vanessa was through her autopsy, which is honestly a horrific way to learn about anyone. Her autopsy showed severe evidence of abuse and neglect, cigarette burns, fractures that had never been healed, and ultimately what killed Vanessa was a ruptured intestine. And so Bill took it upon himself to say, not in my backyard. As a father of young children himself, he wanted to think about the prevention. How do you get involved and engaged and support families to not get to this point? And so that was where the creation of Vanessa Behan came from. So in 1982, when Vanessa died, Bill pulled together what we always refer to as the right group of people. And even with that right group of people, it took 5 years to get our doors open. But we really believe in coming alongside our families to prevent Vanessa's story from happening to anybody else. And as Lacey read, I think we want to do that in a way of being a Mama P. Right? We want to come alongside and join families where they're at and recognize that we all come with our own unidentified trauma, and how do we support people through that and connect with them. Everything we know in science points to the most development happens in a child's brain before they're even 3 years old. So we want to love on those children, support parents, come alongside them, and then build resiliency in our children when we have them in our care so that they don't have to face some of those same traumas that maybe their families have endured. And so again, if we can focus on the prevention side, we know we're going to set children up for much better success in the long run. And then we walk alongside that with parents, because we know, again, oftentimes we come with our own trauma, and that impacts the way we parent, it impacts the way that we see the world, and it impacts the way that we love and receive love. And so we want to come alongside them and join them in doing that. So as you saw, you're going to see quite a few pictures of our brand new facility. We've been in there since 2019. It's beautiful, and it's really shaped for all around our kids. And I never ever apologize for having a beautiful building that our community has paid for, because oftentimes our children are the ones that are getting the hand-me-downs, that are getting the second best. And so we love when they walk into this big, beautiful building and it's all about them. It's tailored to them. They get to experience love. They get to experience activities. They get to see the world in a different way and get to really participate and engage. And our staff comes right alongside them and nurtures them. But that's not our first home. As you saw in our video, you saw our very first home, which was a small 2-story house. And in that facility, we were turning away more children than we were serving. And so we built our second home. And in that space, we also got to a point where we were maxed out and couldn't care for another child, but we were still turning away 1 in 3 requests for care. And so that's when we purchased, designed, and built this facility. And there's lots of room for growth in there. We're about half capacity right now. And again, when kids come in, we want to just give them that space to dream and be bigger than who they ever thought they were. As Lacey talked about what happened to you, it's generational, right? We all have our own traumas that we come from, and how do we heal those? And so what our hope is that we take all the research and the science that has come before us and say, how do we prevent that from happening to the next generation? How do we protect them, grow them, nurture them, and give them those skills for resiliency so that they're able to weather whatever trauma might come? Because we're all going to face tough times, and we're all going to have adversity in our life, but we want to build that positive, nurturing, protective factors. And so there's been a lot of research around brain development. I already mentioned that 90% of who you are going to become is done in those first 3 years of life. That's how much brain activity is happening so early in our lives. But it doesn't mean doom and gloom after that, right? There's protective factors that can come in and support people as they are developing. And so we want to be one of those protective factors, which means giving children a place to be who they are, let their emotions out, learn new ways of trying things. And so in our facility, we are really looking at what the need behind the behavior is. So when a child comes in as maybe acting out, in what somebody might look at as acting out, we're looking at what's that unmet need? What's going on for that child, and how do we support them? So maybe a child is acting aggressively, but it's because maybe they don't see their own worth or their own sense of control in their environment. They don't feel like they have a sense of control. And so how do we build that in so a child gets practice at that development of having some control in their lives from little things, from simple choices. Do you want to wear this today, or do you want to wear that today? Do you want to eat this today, or do you want to eat that today? So they start to learn that they have some control in their lives. We teach them how to use their voice, how to find their words. We teach them how to handle maybe their frustrations, right? We all get frustrated. We all have our emotions. But what do you do with that emotion? How do you handle that? So we might teach a child how to blow out a candle, right? To pretend like they're blowing out a candle or a balloon. Take some deep breaths. Take a moment to breathe. What we're trying to do is take that activated brain that's overstimulated and give it some calmness, so that when they're in their calm state, they can then focus on that task at hand. So we really want to be giving children that opportunity to practice lots and lots of different things to help them be the most successful they can possibly be. So at Vanessa Behan, we're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Parents can call us any time of the day, and we can take children in any time. When we first started at Vanessa Behan in our first early days, we focused on children birth to age 6 because all the research showed the highest rates of abuse and neglect happen in the first years of a child's life. And so that's where you want to come alongside a family and support them in being parents. And so again, that was our focus, birth to 6. And then when we moved into our brand new facility, we had the opportunity to do somewhat of a needs assessment and ask our families, what's missing? What doesn't Spokane have? What could we be doing better at? Where could we walk alongside you and support better? And there's a gap in our community from 7 to 12. And so we really designed our facility and our space so that we could take those older children to, again, support parents where they need that. And so when we moved into our new facility in December of 2019, we thought, let's give it a couple of years to kind of figure out how best to care for those children 7 to 12, get really good at educating our staff and getting them the skills and the tools that they need to be successful. And then March, the pandemic hit. And we knew that those children in that age range of 7 to 12 were no longer going to school. But we knew that their parents were still struggling with having to work or having other things that they were dealing with that didn't necessarily allow them to be at home to focus on their child's education. And so that very Monday that schools were closed, we opened our doors to say, let us take in those children in that range of 7 to 12. Let's help those parents make sure that those children are staying in school, getting their education, and taking one level of stress off of them. Research will also show that stress is one of the leading factors of child abuse and neglect. Many of you might be able to identify this. I can as a mother myself. The more stress I am under, the harder it is for me to be a good parent. And so if we can alleviate little pieces of stress off of a parent, we know that allows them to put all of their energy into being a good parent. And so we want to come alongside them. And so during that pandemic and being able to take older children has really allowed parents to focus on whatever it is that brought them to our doors. There really is no right or wrong reason for a family to use Vanessa Behan. We know that parents in our community are struggling with a host of things, whether it is just being socially isolated, they don't have a good support system. We also know that the most abuse and neglect happens when people are isolated too. They don't have a safe person to turn to. Our headlines will show that. The children who were abused or killed are oftentimes because a parent left them with somebody that they thought they trusted or they thought that they knew and come back to find that child is not safe. And so we want to be an alternative to that. When a parent doesn't know 100%, we're there. We have trained staff, educated staff, multiple staff, so line of sight supervision is happening, so our children are never left with one caregiver. Our staff are never overwhelmed because they have a way to tap out and say, I'm getting to my point of being burnt out. Can somebody else step in and help me with this child? And so we really, again, want to look at whatever reason a parent calls us, we want to walk alongside them. We talk about it as an iceberg, right? We all know that analogy of the tip of the iceberg. When a parent calls, oftentimes they're just looking for how much they trust and feel safe asking for that help. And so we might just get that tip of the iceberg of saying, I need to go grocery shopping, or I haven't slept in a couple of days and I'm exhausted. Can you take my child for a few hours or a few days? And as we get to build that relationship with a family, the more often they come back and the more often they get to meet us, they start to trust and we get to learn more about what's going on in their lives. And it allows us to walk that journey along with them and support them in whatever they need. And that's what I think is the most beautiful thing about Vanessa Behan, is that we really get to focus on the individual child and the individual family and whatever it is that they're experiencing, so that we can help them navigate that road ahead in a loving and nurturing way. Again, I think Lacey in some of the talk that she had with that book is that you can't give what you didn't have or what you didn't get yourself, right? And so if our families came in and didn't get that support and that nurturing or the understanding of a child development or brain development, how do they give that to their children? And so we want to support them through that. And so we do this in a lot of different things. So what I've been describing primarily is our respite care, where children can stay with us for up to 72 hours while parents get that support that they need. They can take a break, they can go take a nap, they can go take care of appointments, they can go to work, whatever it is that brought them to our doors, they can go and take care of. And then we get that opportunity while we have those children, and we want to maximize that every moment we have with a kiddo through play to develop that resiliency for them. But the other programs that we do are things like parent education. We think that supporting parents through understanding their child's development is incredibly important. We focus on a model called Circle of Security. I don't know if any of you have heard of this, but it's a really amazing program designed actually right here in Spokane by Kent Hoffman and a group at Mary Cliff, I'm going to get that wrong, Mary Cliff, but it's world renowned. He travels the world teaching this, and it really focuses on parenting is a circle. And the top half of that circle is allowing children to go and explore. And oftentimes it's about attachment. And if we haven't had a secure attachment ourselves, sometimes when our kids are out exploring, we might not feel like it's safe for them. And so we pull them back in. And that teaches a child that the world isn't safe. And so we want to encourage our children to go out and explore. But we also want to have that safe base, that bottom half of the circle, where when children aren't feeling safe themselves, they can come back. And the beautiful thing about the circle of security is it works for children who are infants, it works for children who are 16. And I think about my teenagers who were out driving, and I need to be able to let them explore and be safe to go out and drive with some parameters, but I also have to be waiting for them when they come home. Did they make it home safe? Did they make good choices? What was their time like? So that circle of security really is a great model for teaching not only our children, but ourselves how to support our kiddos. We also have what we call our stay, play, and learn, and this is a drop-in place for parents and children. A lot of times what we do at Respite is a parent calls and said, I'm overwhelmed with this behavior, I don't know what to do with it. We can give a parent a break from that and take those kids for a few hours, again, or a few days, while the parent can go and get whatever they need taken care of or just get a break from it. But we're not getting a chance to support the parent in that behavior. So our stay, play, and learn is where a parent can come in and say, I'm struggling with this behavior. And we have parenting coaches in there that can talk about, let's practice here, or let's talk about what you're doing, maybe give you a few other ideas or tips or tools that might work in that. Or it's a place where we can just simply support children in learning how to play. We've had parents come in and say they live in a studio apartment and they don't have a safe place to let their children get down on the floor and really play and get and be safe. And so they want an environment where their children can be on the floor and crawl around and not worry about the environment. So again, just a safe place for them to get a chance to play. Another piece of that oftentimes is our families can be socially isolated. They don't have a great support network. Our communities, I think we've all drifted from far from home, and so this is a place where people can come together and find that support. So we actually have play groups where parents can come for specific times, or they can just drop in any time. But it's a great place, again, for parents to build relationships with other parents who maybe are dealing with a lot of the same things that they are, right? How do you make friendships? And so our staff can be there to help nurture those friendships and those relationships, role model for them, and then just give parents that outlet of a place where they can talk and say, I don't feel so alone, right? I think it can be very isolating to be a parent and think that you're the only one that experiences that behavior, when in reality we all do, right? And so it's a lot more normalizing when you can come into a place and have a conversation with a parent or a staff member that says, been there, we've done that. That's a lot of what happens for all of us. And here's some tools and some tricks and some ideas of how to support your children through that. We oftentimes talk about that North Star, right? And that's the experience we want to give to our children when they're at Vanessa Behan, is that way to see things differently. Very often our kids will come back many years later and say some of their happiest memories were then when they were at Vanessa Behan. And again, it's that North Star of there's hope, right? So for those kids who maybe don't have a really solid base, who've had some real trauma in their lives, we can give them that North Star and give them that hope for the future. And they go out looking for that in their lives. And so we really want to, again, just support kiddos through that. Let's see. Sorry, we've got great notes here, and I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. There's been a lot of research around adverse childhood experiences. And so we know that children oftentimes come with adversity. And there was a study done by Kaiser Permanente back in the 90s that talked about those adverse experiences, and it looked at 10 different aspects of, have you been exposed to adverse experiences before you were 18? And these adversehood experiences consisted of, in your home, when you were being raised, did you encounter abuse or neglect? Did you live with a parent who dealt with mental health issues? Did you live with a parent who'd been incarcerated? Was there substance abuse in the home? And all of these things add to what we call an ACE score. And there's so much research that says a score of 4 or more leads to adverse health outcomes as well. And so the reason why we want to, so it's fascinating that we study this when we talk about health. But all these things that we've known intuitively for many, many years is that the earlier we engage with children, the better and healthier foundation we give them, the less adverse outcomes they're going to have in life. But we start to study it when it comes to health. So at Vanessa Behan, again, that's why we really want to engage with them early, is trying to step in before that adversity really sets in and give those positive outcomes, and then help support families through those things and give them the resources and the tools that they need. So I feel like I'm kind of talking in circles, but when a family is with us and maybe they're dealing with past trauma. We want to give them that opportunity for them to get healthy and heal from that. So whether they're going off to counseling or recovery or treatment of some sort, again, we're supporting the children and the parent because you can't separate the two. There's a wise man, Jeffrey Canada, out of New York that talks about you can't save children without saving families. And so we really want to look at that from that perspective, that we do not want our children being taken from the home and put into CPS. That's not the best outcome for them. Their best outcome is to stay in their family of origin if we can help give them the tools and the supports that they need to be as healthy as possible. And so that's really what we want to do, is support them in that. And so we may see children from the time they're born until the time they turn 12 as we walk along that journey with our parents to say, we're here to support you through whatever's going on in your lives. Again, it comes back to being one of those positive factors for our families. So I want to kind of end by, we've talked a little bit about it, you saw this in the video, but we're privately funded. We don't take state or federal funding. Our building is done because of our community. The care that's provided to our children is because of this community. That includes all of you. So this is also a message of thanks. We get to do what we do because of caring and loving people in this community. And so we're so excited to say that that building is built and paid for. And so we're now kind of in the second stage of our development, and that is to grow to capacity. This building is designed for 60 plus children. Right now we care for about 25 on any given day. And so we've got some work to do to grow our budget so we can hire more staff and care for more children. But we really will say kids can't wait. We know that we need to engage in them right now. All that brain science says, we need to reach them before they're 3 years old. I am a firm believer if we can support children across the community in every aspect, wherever we meet them in that age range, we are going to protect them from the adversity that they're going to face. We're going to build that resiliency. They're going to know that they're safe places, safe people, that this community is here to support them, and they're going to thrive, as opposed to waiting until all that damage happens and now we're healing ourselves as adults. And so again, why it's so important that we do the work that we do at Vanessa Behan, but that we do that across the community and everybody is engaged in supporting children right where you're at, whether it's in your community or you're volunteering somewhere. It's not just Vanessa Behan. We do this in conjunction with so many other people in this community. Even as we saw the children walk off to service today, that's a community wrapping around kiddos, and we all need to be doing that to support parents because it's a hard journey to be a parent in this world, and so we need to support each other the best we possibly can. So I'm going to wrap up by saying we've got some information in the back if you're interested in learning more, coming up for a visit and seeing firsthand. I feel like I can talk about this all day long, but until you see it, it really sinks in much better when you can come and see firsthand. Maybe you're interested in volunteering, maybe it's just you want to see what it is. There's a sign up back, Lacey, and I'll be back there here shortly to visit with you and sign you up if you're interested. Also an opportunity to donate. One of your members has graciously agreed to match donations for a period of time, and so you can learn more about that through, I believe, through the church website and programs. So again, thank you so much for taking the time to listen. We appreciate what you do for Vanessa Behan in our community and just getting a chance to talk about what we do. So thank you.
I too want to urge you to jump in and remind you that there are matching funds for what you put in the coffers today and perhaps beyond, but do it today. Please rise as you're willing and able to sing number 301, Touch the Earth and Reach the Sky.
My closing words today come from L.R. Nost. It is time for a return to childhood, to simplicity, to running and climbing and laughing in the sunshine, to experiencing happiness instead of being trained for a lifetime of pursuing happiness. Amen. Blessed be. Salam alaikum and shalom.